All right, people. What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to our freedoms as Americans and what we as United States citizens, as well as the world, is confronted with today. Um, a brief introduction. Uh, my name is John. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. My master's is in mental health counseling, and I'm sitting on my dissertation right now. I'm 75% done with it, and the study is advanced studies of human behavior. I also have a minor in religious studies. What's going on in this country and world is alarming, very scary, and we're heading to something that like we've never seen before. This is going to be the first of quite a few presentations that I have to offer. It's convoluted. Um, there is no real starting point to it. But over the past 9 years, I've researched the Obama administration. Uh, I'm versed in the Quran, and naturally, being a Christian, I know the Bible well. Um, and what's happening right now globally and what you see going on in this country is we're at the end of the 100-year plan of the um, Islam philosophy to global domination. They're uprising. Uh, they're intelligent and organized, and they're on a mission. Some of the stuff that I'm going to be telling you about is unbelievable. You'll question it. And again, this is just what I'm going to give you tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. Keep in mind the sources that I'm offering you. This isn't my words. This is biblical. It's from the Muslim belief system or Islam. It's political. None of this is my words. I simply connected the dots, which our government try to hide and the world try to hide. So let me begin. And I'm going to be reading from a piece of paper because it's too many words. I know the words. I can recite it, but I need a sense of order to present to you. So I'm going to be reading this from a document that I printed out. And like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I do seminars in Christian, throughout the Christian world and throughout America, and to any concerned America, regardless of your faith, unless you're Muslim. This is needed to be heard. All right, let me begin because it's about 20 minutes. Islam is not a, I'm sorry, Islam is not only a theopolitical doctrine. This can be described as a self-improving system, a form of government in which God or deity is recognized as the supreme ruler. Also, a system of government by priests claiming, or imams claiming, a divine commission. And lastly, a commonwealth or state under such a form of government. The God, and I state a small g for God under this belief system, because any other God besides the God of Christianity would be blasphemous, of Islam, is the driving force of this satanic belief system. Islam is implemented under Islamic Sharia law. This understanding is essential for all non-believers to understand. Our life depends on all non-believers to understand that Islam makes attainment of political goals a religious duty, regardless of the cost, which this adherence to these beliefs makes the religious and political agenda inseparable. They are bound together and they can never be separated. Never. The ultimate goal of the Islamic State, which many imams, which the imam is the religious political leader of Islam, have already publicly stated, is to spread Islam globally. They, the Islamic State, desires a one world religion, whereas any non-believers will either declare themselves Muslim, pay taxes, or die. The Islamic movement will replace or subjugate anything that is not of Islam. And you can see this occurring today, not only in our country, but around the world. The removal of the Confederate history is only the beginning. Where Islam thrives, a state within a state develops, and the existing government, I apologize, and the existing government, I lost my place there, the existing government and unbelieving, which are the kafir or the infidel, culture is rejected. As we all have been witness to, the history, albeit good or bad, is slowly being erased. Also, the cry from sanctuary cities to uphold their own accordance to Sharia is coming to the forefront. Call me a liar, but you see it happening. The Islamic minority grows in until it can conquer, by political or violent means, the established government and replaces this government with Sharia. All of this can be seen today in our world, our country. To deny this happening is lying to yourself, and this is very dangerous. I'm telling you. Early in the beginnings, Islam aggressively spread through violence. This violence is still occurring. Again, we see this almost every day. Currently, the Islamic State and its modernized conquest begins with immigration and enlarging population. Think Dearborn, Michigan, or Minneapolis, followed by a demand for differential treatment of Islam in the host country. You see it happening. This is including cultural and educational. Our schools being forced to educate and implement Islamic practices. Again, you see it happening. Non-integration. They don't want to hear it. Imagine the fronts to Islam are claimed and redress demanded. How we, the people of the United States, must acknowledge Islam with respect and accept their plight, or we are deemed as Islamophobic. Islam rejects the host law and culture and slowly demands their agenda, peacefully perhaps at first. Then when their numbers are great, aggression presents. You see it in lone wolf jihad regularly. And Americans die, as we are witnessing to this day. Sharia law, heavily influenced by 7th century Arab culture, denounces freedom of speech, religion, expression, and action, and denies equality between men and women, therefore, or I should say thereby, violating human rights. Sharia law has no golden rule to treat individuals equally. Instead, Sharia segregates people into two classes of people, Muslims and non-Muslims. Muslims are supreme, and non-Muslims are inferior, holding no equal rights under Islam. The non-believers are nothing. Muslim relations are completely separate from Muslim kafir relationships. Where deceit is sanctioned and maltreatment largely unpunished. Simply, no matter the temperament of individual Muslims, the Islamic community as a whole, the Ummah, drives the process of Islamization or codification of Islamic supremacy versus Sharia law. History of this Islamic movement is unprecedented. The brutalities that many nationalities endured is endless, and it continues to this day. There is no room to list the thousands of violent acts of Muslims against non-Muslims in the name of Islam. It would take me a friggin' month, maybe two, non-stop, 24/7. But as witnessed today across the globe, violence and political upheaval are associated with increasing Muslim populations. You see it, deny it. I will offer an insight categorically of the nationalities, races that suffered from the hands of Islam. Islam ran the wholesale slave trade in Africa. 120 million Africans, and they are still enslaving Africans currently. What is confounding is that 12 million Africans were sent to America. White Europeans from America were involved in the slave trade, not all white people. And in all actuality, less than 3% of the white people in America at this time had anything to do with slavery. Interestingly, white people today are suffering the consequences of slavery simply because of their skin color. Many black Americans are demanding reparations from the white people. But I have not seen one black person seek reparations from Islam. And what is extremely interesting is that many blacks embrace Islam. They're captors, they're terrorists, and the killers of their bloodline. 669 million Christians have been slaughtered from the beginnings of Islam, and the death toll is rising daily. 80 million Hindus, 10 million Buddhists, Jews. Oddly enough, there were not enough Jews killed in jihad to significantly affect the totals of the Great Annihilation. Read about it. The jihad in Arabia was 100% effective, but the numbers were in the thousands, not millions. After that, the Jews submitted and became the dhimmis, or servants and second-class citizens of Islam, and did not have a geographical or political power. They existed to serve the Muslims. The United States is a republic, or I should say is a constitutional republic, which was thoughtfully fashioned by our forefathers, and its government powers defined in the U.S. Constitution and separated into three branches filled by the President, Congress, and the courts. That's just real brief. That's just a outskirting definition. Is America perfect? Where and are there injustices? Absolutely. But as the years go by, we are getting better. And argue if you may, the United States does provide equality for all and offers the citizens choices and provides the individual opportunities regardless of race, gender, and or religious belief. Sharia law is irreconcilably in conflict with the United States Constitution and our government. Islamic nations, often theocratic oligarchies, condemn liberty, forbid equality, and they reject traditional concepts of sovereignty. The tolerance of we, the people, cannot be afforded to Islam, even if we wanted to, because the Islamic State is not tolerant with the American laws, values, morals, and religious belief systems. They simply want to take America and create their own way of life. And whether or not you believe this is it's inconsequential, because soon you will see the truths. Because the Nation of Islam is succeeding politically, and while we may witness lone wolf jihad almost daily, this is nothing compared to what is to come. Islam and Sharia are grave dangers to the United States of America and to all Western cultures. We must choose liberty, equality, and representative government over Islam's doctrine of submission, supremacism, and dictatorial theocracy. Consider what the world is going through today. Nearly every conflict across the globe involves the Islam threatening native populations everywhere. The tenets of Islam support violence towards non-Muslims, and this should concern you. From the Quran, in it you will see unbridled raw evil, such as statements like these. Truly God loved those who fight. Fight and slay the pagans wherever you find them, and seize them, beleaguer them, and lie in wait for them in every stratagem. Chop off their hands and chop off their fingertips. When you meet the unbelievers, chop off their heads. You see it? Fight and slay those who don't convert wherever you find them. Believers, take neither Jew nor Christians for your friends. Those who follow Muhammad are ruthless to unbelievers. Those who reject Islam are the vilest of creatures, and thus deserve no mercy. Fight them until Islam reigns supreme throughout the world. There are more than 100 verses in the Quran advocating the use of violence to spread Islam. There are exactly 123 verses in the Quran about killing and fighting. The word Islam has been falsely proclaimed by Muslims to mean peace. The word Islam actually means submission to the Muslim god of intolerance and hatred. It comes from the root Arabic word taslim. In Arabic, the word for peace is only sulh, S-O-L-H. So you may be asking how it is possible to take over a great nation such as the United States, and I will offer you this, which is written by radical Islam. And bear in mind, this is an introduction into the wonderful world of Islam. There is much more, and I promise I will make future presentation. So let's begin. And again, this is their doctrine, not mine. 4 stages of Muslim conquest. Stage 1, infiltration. Muslims are moving to non-Muslim countries to increasing numbers, and the beginning of cultural conflicts are visible, but often subtle. First, migration wave to non-Muslim host country. Appeal for humanitarian tolerance from the host society. Now, I want you to think about these steps. Find a correlation. Attempt to portray Islam as peaceful and Muslims as victims of misunderstanding and racism, even though Islam is not a race. High Muslim birth rate in host country to increase Muslim population. With this, I got to interject. Linda Sarsour, the chairperson for the women's rights movement here in the United States, has been identified as an ISIS member as well as being allied with the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was actually employed in governmental positions through the Obama administration. Research it, both of which are construed as being propagators of the spread of Islam, is encouraging the women of the United States to abort their children, mostly in the black communities, because the black population has the highest rate of childbirth. Linda Sarsour, in accordance to her faith, Islam, does not believe in abortion in the Muslim community. Abortion is deemed one of the highest wrongs that can be brought to this faith because of their 100-year plan, in which the fertility rate of the Muslims must be 4 to 5 children per man to surpass that of the American, so to have the numbers in order to take over countries. The Nation of Islam currently averaging 4 to 5 children per man. An American man is averaging 1.5. I will elaborate upon this more in upcoming recordings. Mosque used to spread Islam and dislike of host country and culture. Currently, there are over 3,000 mosques in the United States, plus 22 or more Muslim training grounds, in which each training ground holds 2,000 men training in guerrilla warfare tactics with high-end weaponry and explosives. Calls to criminalize Islamophobia as a hate crime. You see it. Threatened illegal action for perceived discrimination. They do that constantly. Offers of interfaith dialogue to indoctrinate non-Muslims. It's happening with our grade school children, bowing to Allah. As a sidebar, and what we are seeing globally, I have to put this in there. Canada, legal assault on freedom of speech. They're allowed to do that now. Australia, Muslim rape of non-Muslim women. USA, demands for accommodation in employment and recruitment in our jails. Globally, approximately 14,500 terrorist acts since 9/11. And it's higher than that, actually. I got the numbers, and I'll show it to you in a future presentation. Sickening, really. Stage 2, consolidation of power. Muslim immigrants and host country converts continue demands for accommodations in employment, education, social services, and courts. If you haven't seen this online, and you're going to look into this video and call me a liar, there's something seriously wrong with you, because it's happening. You see it. Proselytizing increases. Establishment and recruitment of jihadist cells, which I talked about. At least 22 in this country. As we stated previously, to reiterate, 22 known cells exist, and 3,000 mosques are thriving. And this doesn't include the sanctuary cities. Americans, are you fools? Efforts to convert alienated segments of the population to Islam. Revisionist efforts to Islamize history. Talks are currently undergoing about the proposed Islamic Museum. The museum is being proposed to be built on the site of the Twin Towers that was taken down by the Muslims, by Islam. Please. Sickening. Efforts to destroy historic evidence that reveal true Islamism. Efforts to recruit allies to share similar goals, communist anarchists like Antifa, the bitches. Don't worry, the day's coming. Attempts to indoctrinate children to Islamic viewpoint. Increased efforts to intimidate, silence, and eliminate non-Muslims. Efforts to introduce blasphemy and hate laws in order to silence critics. Continued focus on enlarging Muslim population by increasing Muslim births and immigration. Just go back to the 100-year plan. I just spoke about this. Use of charities to recruit supporters and fund jihad. Covert efforts to bring about the destruction of the host society from within. Think the Obama administration. The Clintons. Slimy people. Development of Muslim political base in non-Muslim host society. The Islamic, the Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood. Islamic financial networks fund political growth, acquisition of land. This is occurring daily with Muslim terrorists in training. They buy that land so we can't go in there and just take that shit. This was spoke up previously, and I'll offer more insight into this at a later recording. Highly visible assassination of critics aimed to intimidate opposition. Tolerance of non-Muslims diminishes. Greater demands to adopt strict Islamic conduct. Clandestine amassing of weapons and explosive in hidden locations. The 22 terrorist cells and the 3,000 mosques, perhaps. Overt disregard or rejection of non-Muslim societies, legal systems, and culture. Efforts to undermine and destroy power base of non-Muslim religions, including and especially Jews and the Christians. As a sidebar, Denmark calls to ban criticism of Islam. United Kingdom, Sharia courts are emerging and in place. France, riots and destruction of property. Netherlands, murder of Theo van Gogh for insulting Islam. OIC demands and gets anti-blasphemy laws from UN. Globally, honor killing shock host populations. Physical and legal intimidation causes self-censorship in host populations. Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism grows. Pressures for Sharia finance. Stage 3. Open war on leadership and culture. Open violence to impose Sharia law and associated cultural restrictions. Rejection of host government. Subjugation of other religions and cultures. Intentional efforts to undermine the host government and culture. Acts of barbarity to intimidate citizens and foster fear and submission. Open and covert efforts to cause economic collapse of the society. All opposition is challenged and either eradicated or silenced. Mass execution of non-Muslims. You see lone wolf jihad in this country, right? Almost daily. You're seeing mass execution of Christians globally, regularly. If you want to deny this, go ahead. But we're coming to a boiling point, people. When is enough? When is enough is enough? Widespread ethnic cleansing by Islamic militias. Rejection and defiance of host society's secular laws or culture. murder of moderate Muslim intellectuals who do not support Islamization, destruction of churches, synagogues, and other non-Muslim institutions. Women are restricted further in accordance with Sharia law. Large-scale destruction of population, assassinations, bombings, toppling of government and usurpation of political power, imposition of Sharia law. Sidebar: Sudan, Darfur, murder and rape, enslavement. Philippines, murder, confiscation. Kenya, election-related violence. Malaysia, churches burned, murder. India, Mumbai attacks, legal threats, riots. From Dar el-Harb, or House of War, to Dar el-Islam, House of Islam. Lovely. Stage 4, totalitarian Islamic theocracy. Islam becomes the only religious, political, judicial, cultural ideology. Sharia becomes the law of the land. All non-Islamic human rights canceled. Enslavement and genocide of non-Muslim population. Freedom of speech and press eradicated. All religions other than Islam are forbidden and destroyed. Destruction of evidence of non-Muslim culture. Populations and symbols in country. Buddha, houses of worship, art, etc. The Confederacy, the southern states. My southern brothers. Now I'm from the north, but the South's hardcore. If they can get rid of that shit down south, they're going to come up into Twink Town, the northern states, the Twinkies up here, and they're going to roll through it. We got a bunch of pussies up here in the north. I think we have some hardcore people, but the hardcore people from the south, you letting that shit happen to you. The House of Islam, Islam, includes those nations that have submitted to Islamic rule to Sharia law. The rest of the world in the House of War, Harb, because it does not submit to Sharia law and exists in a state of rebellion or war with the will of Allah. No non-Muslim state or its citizens are innocent and remain viable targets of war for not believing in Allah. You talk about some bullshit. Alright. Christian, Jewish, Copts, C-O-P-T-S, Hindus, and Zoroastrian peoples of the world that suffered under subjugation for centuries. Demons are forbidden to construct houses of worship or repair existing ones, economically crippled by the jizya or tax, socially humiliated, legally discriminated against, and generally kept in permanent state of weakness, fear and vulnerability of Islamic governments. Sidebar: Saudi Arabia, public beheadings, marriage to minors. It's coming here. So when you can try to prepare your 9 or 10-year-old to be taken by some Muslim sexually, Iran, public hangings of homosexuals. Go ahead. I'm the furthest thing from being homophobic. I love everybody. I hate sin, but I love all the people. You want to protest? Go ahead. They'll throw your ass off a building too. They don't care. Egypt, Copts, C-O-P-T-S, oppressed and killed. Stoning of presumed adulterers. For all you people out there cheating on your wife, which I know there's millions of you doing it. The women, go ahead, get caught cheating on your Muslim husband. See what happens. They'll put your ass in a hole buried up to your neck and stone your ass to death. Fashion police ensure women are covered. Can you believe that? No more bikinis. Apostates put to death. Honor killings are routine. That's their plan. This shit ain't from my mouth. This is what they planned. This is their steps to overtake the country. No brotherly love. The Muslim Brotherhood. Allah is our objective. The Prophet is our leader. Quran is our law. Jihad is our way. Dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. I'll die for the cause here too, brother. Trust me. The Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Ikhwan, was founded in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna as an Islamic revivalist movement. Terrorist acts and assassinations, including Egypt's Sadr, are tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, which can now be found across the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and here in the United States. The Brotherhood maintains a complex financial network that supports its operations. According to its 1991 explanatory memo, the general strategic goal for the Brotherhood in North America includes, and I'll emphasize, a global Islamic state. The process is a civilization jihadist process. The Ikhwan's work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands, by our own hands. And they're succeeding. They're succeeding. And the hands of the believers, so that it is eliminated in God's religion, Islam, is made victorious over all other religions. That's the tip of the iceberg, people. It goes much deeper than that. I don't care if you believe me or if you don't. The reason I brought up about the African Americans, the black population in this country and what was going on, you'll find out in the future presentations that for years, many years, not just with the Obama administration, but from the time of slavery here within the United States, a class system had been invoked. It's not about white and black people. It's about rich and poor. It's about Islam and Christianity. My grandson is half black. I love all people. The wedge, the red flags, this shit about white people owing you reparations. Nah, get reparations from your enslavers. The Islams, the Mohammeds, the Muslims. They're still enslaving your people to this day. The government fears us, the whites and the blacks. Trust me. They don't want to see us united. Together, my people, Christians, white, black, red, green, yellow, blue, it don't matter. If you're a Christian in your heart, if you're a Christian in your mind, if you are everything to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, our God, you can't accept Islam. You can't even be tolerant. It's a false God. God has his soldiers. Believe me. Rise up, people. Rise up to your white and black Christian brothers and unite and fight now. We're at a crossroads. But I'll get back to you. Thanks for listening to this. I appreciate it. God bless, and I love you all. Take care now.